the assembly of the dyno is finished, and I've done a simple test using the manual device here to accelerate and brake. But the only way you're going to benefit from the information it can give you is by using it with the computer, and it's got the two USBs that go to the computer, and this is the little interface that enables the computer to run. The speed control acts like a receiver. The instructions you download about assembly will show you this. The ESC controller sensor connection, and it just shows it plugged in there, which way round and which socket. It's that one there. So just make sure you've got the socket round the right way. Socket and plug, I mean, from the speedo goes in there, just like a receiver, and negative on the outside. So that's all set up. Now, the two USBs and the computer. Looking at the basic instructions, it says download the software and driver. The driver would be like the USB driver, so the computer would be able to talk to the electronics in the dyno. And then you've got the software, which is going to give you the program with all the variables. So I'll put this on a stationary in a minute so we can see what we're doing. miniprousa.com. I haven't actually downloaded this yet, so this is the first time. miniPRO Tune to Win must be the one. Let's go there. And there is the page. miniPRO Motor Dyno, we recognize it. Along the top we've got the various things you can download, and we'll go on downloads. Down here it's got manuals, software, drivers. The manuals are what we downloaded so we can assemble the thing. Software and drivers. Let's look at the software. miniPRO Dyno, it seems to be historic. 3.2, 3.2.1, 3.2.2 latest. The latest one is what we want. We'll click on that. Release date was 5th of March 18, version, firmware compatibility, etc. What's new, supports the steel flywheel, etc. Where to download. And we are going to need the window drivers as well. Be the mini, wherever that is, we'll get that in a minute. Let's just download this. It's a zip drive. Want to save it. And that's downloading now. It's taking about, it's downloaded. Let's go and get the, where's the Windows driver for the USB drivers? Here must be this Dyno electric board driver, must be it. Compatibility Windows 7 or later, version 2.0. It's originally 25th of July, though it does say updated December the 20th. So we download that as well. It says, do you want to download or save? So we just save that, and it's downloaded it already. So hopefully, if I go to the downloads, we've got the two downloads now. So I'm just going to open them up. Extract files. And we can hopefully run that. That'll be the USB drivers. And then after running that, install that. It's going to take a little while. What I'll do is go. Oh, just asking a few questions. Finished. So that was good. And then let's put a couple of shortcuts on there. miniPRO settings, miniPRO Dyno. But we need to just open the other one as well, which was I think it was this board driver. Dyno electronic board driver is what we want to run. So those are the three files that the system's going to need. Hopefully it can find them when it tries to run. You have to download the Pololu throttle control driver as well. Release date version 1, updated September the 13th, 7 months ago it says. Click on that. Do you want to save? Yeah, we'll save it. And then you've got to open that as well. Throttle control driver there. Extract files. Go in there. Maestro for Windows. Setup. Run that. Add. Oh, we just click yes. USB server controller, that's what we wanted. So that's been installed. You have to restart your computer after installing the USB drivers, etc., so that it sets them up in the system. So I've just restarted. Next, plug in the two USBs. Your computer should have or laptop should have two spare USB sockets. So we'll put them in them at the moment and see if it automatically recognizes them. You can go to, let's try miniPRO settings. You've got a light flashing on here. That green light is on, and there's a green light on there. There's a thing that says connect just there. I'm going to try and see what happens. Cannot connect. Please make sure you selected the correct port and the switch pins are in setup mode. Status not connected, port none, firmware version unknown. I'll have to look at the control panel. Control panel, device manager. Well, according to the device manager, it does have an unknown device. Okay, which I'm not sure. Would you like to install the device software? Well, I've clicked where it was, the software where I'd put it, so I'm going to say install. Successfully updated your drivers. So where it had a thing saying there's something wrong, and now we've ended up with more of those Pololu drivers now, and there's no indication that none of them are working. So those control the ports. So hopefully now, after doing it from the device manager and telling it where we'd put the drivers, which were in there, but I actually moved them into the system as well. As long as you know you can get it to point at the way you put the drivers, it's updated them. I'll just do another restart. I've restarted the computer after updating the drivers through the device manager. Should we look at the miniPRO first? It still says status not connected, ports none, firmware none. We'll try connect. Oh, it now says connected, port COM11, so that's worked. To enter setup mode, I'll have to change to pin 8 on the board. So I'll do that. And I'm not sure whether I have to take pin 2 off or just do pin 8. So I'll do that in the one on the end and press the reset button. And now I should connect, and it comes up with all the data. It's got the correct flywheel, the correct, it says motor dyno, it's got the correct voltage sensor, the 180 amp one which I put on there, no voltage adjustment, flywheel pulley 32, motor pulley 16, which I think is correct. So that's good. So we haven't got to change anything. I think you only need to change any of this if you change, say, the flywheel. You want to use the other units, which are English if you want, but we're staying on metric. Or if you change the pulleys, obviously. Flywheel markers, well, it has one apparently. I don't know why it would have more, but one. There's also up here, if they update the firmware, you can do it from here. It's also a factory reset. Now you have to disconnect this, and I've got to put that, move that pin back down to where it was on the back of the board, and you can close that. I'll move the pin back. I think you have to press the reset button again, and then we can open the dyno. Now we've got to connect up here, and along the bottom it's going to tell you whether the ports at the moment are not connected. So if we can on connect, now along the bottom it says port 11, which we know it is, dyno units, board version, software version, and frequency 10 Hertz. I think that's the sampling rate, 10 times a second, I believe. Next thing to do is you'll have to calibrate whatever speed control you're using to the program. You can minimize these windows if you want. If you go here, options, it comes up with this screen here, and there's a general throttle control or chassis dyno setup. So we want throttle control. It's got neutral, full throttle, full braking. Warning, do not have your motor connected. And make sure your motor's in setup mode before clicking any button. Otherwise, I assume it's just going, the motor might take off. So I'm going to switch on the speedo now. It's beeping. Now that's neutral, so we're going to click on that. Now I've got to do full throttle. We'll do full braking. Well, it doesn't indicate at all whether or not it's done it, so I hope it has. There's some other things here, auto plotting, auto start throttle, 20%, goes down to 5. You can go right up to 95. We'll leave it at 20 at the moment. I think it's it throttles it up to about 20% and then starts doing the plotting. Start after 5 seconds. You can adjust that from 1 up to 30 seconds, and stop after 1 to 30 as well. I assume that's after it reaches the maximum. What was it, 4 seconds? Or continue to plot until RPM reaches 0. 0. The chassis dyno, we won't need to adjust them. It's got things like tyre diameter and what speed you want it in. And on general, you've got an adjustment down here for your monitor, low res, and also round torque power gauges. What does that mean? Round torque. Does that mean round the figures up or change the shape of them? And in the middle here, max RPM, I assume that's a safety thing, or it could be just how you want the display. If you go up to 90,000, it didn't actually change. 20,000, the scale has changed to 20. 30, it changed to 30, so I assume that's what that's for. If you minimize these, they go down into a corner down here, and if you're not careful, if you pull the bottom of this down too far, it covers them over and you can't see them. You wonder where they are, so they're just under there. So take that off and we can restore the other one, which was there, which plots the graph. On the graph, it's got various options: revs versus time, kV versus time, torque and power output versus RPM, and torque and power versus kV. So some good options. And down here it shows you the colours: test 1, test 2, test 3. Now I set the speedo up just then. I'm assuming it's going to be set correctly. Now up here you've got some active throttle, auto test, manual test, and stop test. If I turn the speedo on, we could try active throttle. And the throttle the throttle's down here. I can increase. If I just show here, so on here you can adjust the throttle up or down on press stop, and it goes to the bottom. So that's on the active throttle there. So now there's a manual test and an auto test. Manual test, test number 1, and I assume you do it manually here. And I've got 35% at the moment. Press stop, and you've got graphs here: kV, torque, power, and you've got a graph here. And down here it shows you R1 current, voltage, revs. So that was the revs as I turned it up. Current. The voltage should remain constant. So that was a manual test up there. Now the auto test, I guess it's when it runs it up and stops it. So that's the one we're going to try. So here it says delete test. Are you sure you want to delete? So it's gone back blank. So now we just have to see if the auto test works. That sound was the belt jumping. I thought I had the belt just running down. I thought I had the belt on. Oh, there's a grub screw falling out. It's falling out of there. But the belt's pretty tight. But that was the belt jumping. I don't know how tight we're supposed to pull that. Well, obviously you have to make it even tighter than that. Especially if you had a modified motor on there, it really you run the risk of stripping the teeth. These are all aluminium, doing the teeth in. Anyway, that's the graph you get. You've got RPM, the voltage, and the current. I'm not sure if it shows, if you go in here, whether you go kV versus time. Didn't really do anything. What about torque versus time? Oh yeah, that one does it. If you just do the little refresh thing. You've got torque and power versus time, and torque and power curve there. Go back to the original one, RPM. So that's some data. Then you can do 2 more tests and overlay them, 1, 2, and 3, and compare the graphs. There are a few options available. If you click on this, you can change it from miles per hour to kV or RPM. The amps on that last one, 110 was max, volts 8.54. Temperatures are not connected. The torque, I think these are the 2 maximum ones. Now on the graph itself, if you right click with the mouse, you get a few options besides printing as a chart. Display, you can turn off 1, 2 or 3. Same as down here. If you look at this, you've got current voltage. If you a little tick box, if I untick it, it goes away. So you can just look at 1 if you like. So right click on the mouse, display current on top, show current axis. There's a 3D mode. If you click on it, it gives it the mode where it could be easier to see what you're doing. So unclick that again. Right click, chart background. Well, you've got default, which is black, or you can have white. Go back to black. You've got chart type. It's called spline is default. It's also got line. Spline is that one. Chart type, spline area. So it's like filled them in now. The one of them's disappeared. I don't know where the current one is hidden behind the pink one. Let's go back. So spline area, we go to line. Just spline default. See, spline default. And then you've got line weight size. Well, we've got number 3. Number 1 is looks the same. Number 5, oh, it just makes the lines thicker. So line weight size 3 was default. Now if you left click on the mouse, you can actually drag the mouse around parts of the curve and emphasize them. So if I click on the left click, you can do this box like this, and it gets rid of the parts of the curve you don't want, and you can study it in more depth. If you mess up, you can go back here. There's a little pointer or an X. If you press that a few times, it goes back, and the same up here. You can get back to the beginning. I think that's besides the charts that I've already shown you, torque and power, do the refresh. So we've got different graphs here, kV, refresh, etc. So those are the things you can manipulate with the graph, and then you can eventually print the chart. Display chart data grid. There's RPM versus torque, voltage, temperature. And then you've got one more thing. You've got a thing up here called summary. If you press that, you get a summary of the results from your 3 test runs. Max torque at revs, current, voltage, power, blah blah blah. Now before I do some serious testing on here, a couple of points I'm going to make is, if you're testing a motor for different settings, one thing you're going to have to do is keep the battery fully charged at all times. And what I do, I'm going to get a charger and connect it to the battery and have it on. Keep the battery up at 8.4, and that after a run, if the charger switch off when I start running, just switch it back on again to maintain a constant voltage, so there's no variables. When you adjust the motor, the timing, it won't be affected by the voltage. So that's the basics of setting this up, and now all I have to do is set up a motor and do some runs and show you the results.